Today, I'm going to be playing every Souls game for the very first time. Yes, the very first time. And I'm going to be ranking them against each other on a tier list from S all the way to F, starting with the first game. With this literally being my first Souls game, I had no clue what I was in for. The hardest series I played before this was probably God of War, which is why I thought, yeah, I got this. Can't be that difficult. Yeah, I'm cooked. I honestly don't think I can put into perspective how quickly my hope was destroyed. Before this, I've never played a game where every time you die you have to go all the way back to the start. Even worse, all the enemies respawn at full health while yours gets destroyed. This level of punishment was enough to make me question whether this video was even worth making. I started to wonder if everyone who enjoyed these games had some sort of kink. Like, how can someone put up with this and come out on the other end saying, "This game is amazing"? I truly couldn't wrap my mind around that. In the end, after enduring pure torture for countless hours, I was ready to hang it up. I went to go and install the game before a little birdie told me, just use magic. So that's exactly what I did. And let me just say, this changed everything. This is broken. I finally felt like I could enjoy the game without getting shafted. I was, for once, getting through these early areas of the game, which now looking back on it, it's hilarious. I can't believe I struggled this much. Regardless, once I finally made it to the first boss, I shit on the dude. The same goes for the rest of the bosses in this world, except for this guy. I quickly found out that I was not supposed to be here, so I made my way through the other worlds before coming back. This is where the game truly began to shine. Every new area I came across was filled with immense detail. I may have taken the easy route with magic, but it allowed me to really see everything for its true beauty. This game can give many new ones a run for their money. Like, man, Demon Souls just has some of the smoothest combat and gameplay I've ever seen. The best way I can describe it is like that feeling you get when sleeping on your arm or fighting in a dream. Both are canon events that feel terrible, and it's how I feel about combat in most games. However, this one feels more like a fresh cold glass of water in the morning. The fluidity of the animations as well as the skill and timing makes it so rewarding to learn, something that quickly peaked with my favorite boss in the game. The Flame Lurker is really the first skill check. I mean, the spider would have been, but I just cheesed it. Hey, you can't blame a man when this is all the fucker would do. Besides that, my favorite part about the Flame Lurker was the pure skill it took. Even with magic, you're forced to learn his moveset and take advantage of the arena to come out on top. Not to mention, the skill it took to avoid the lava made it all the more rewarding to beat him. And once I finally did, I can't even put into words the kind of high that it gave me. I wouldn't get that feeling again until the final boss, especially the way it went down. Now, after clearing through the game, taking down boss after boss, I'd finally become reacquainted with the man himself, King Allant. I knew going into this that I might be screwed. I was even told that I might have to resort to using a spell to completely cheese the boss if I want any chance at beating him. But after figuring out I was locked out of getting it, I decided to give him one good shot before considering myself done for. And man, you can't make this stuff up. After fighting him for 30 minutes straight, running out of magic and feeling like all else was lost, I was forced to lock in. This feeling, like the one with the Flame Lurker, was unmatched. By the end of the game, I finally got it. I finally understand why these games, and this one in particular, are so beloved. Having an incredibly difficult challenge put in front of you, especially one that at times can seem unattainable and coming out on top, is truly a feeling that everyone on this planet needs to experience. Looking back, I really wish I hadn't used magic. Even though it's part of the reason that I didn't give up, I know the feeling I got would have been tenfold. So, moving forward, I won't be using anything like that in the next games. No magic, no summons, nothing. Though, we may need to cheese a few bosses. Jokes aside, Demon Souls is phenomenal. It's not short on its flaws, world tendency, but the positives this game has are amazing. From the uniqueness of every boss and enemy design, to the great world building, there was truly never a dull moment, which is exactly why I'm going to put this game in B tier. That may seem low considering how much I enjoyed myself, but I'm confident the games to come will one-up this one. Maybe even this next game will be able to do just that. Dark Souls 1 felt like a treat to start up. It may look like the game is from the early 2000s, but who cares? It's the meat of it all that matters. That sentiment would stick with me through the remainder of this game, as I was ready to truly get that Souls experience. No more of that magic stuff. Today, we're picking up a sword. I'm not even joking when I say, what the fuck was that? It would take me a second to realize that, yeah, a broken sword ain't gonna cut it. After finally taking this behemoth down, I'd be introduced to, in my opinion, the best hub in all of the games. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd soon find out why. Now, after becoming acquainted with the game, and I mean really acquainted, I'd gradually progress through the first area. After I defeated some early enemies and found my first bonfire, I was immediately sold with this game. Like, this is exactly what I wanted improved upon from Demon Souls. There were more checkpoints and a better balanced enemy system. Like, I shouldn't be ready to end it all just getting to the boss. That's the actual boss's job. But I digress. This just immediately made me happy for what's to come. After taking out my first boss in style, I'd immediately find one of the most broken weapons in the game. I didn't know how to kill this guy, so I spent an absurd amount of time just spamming him with arrows, which the weapon you get from doing this, wow. If this game wasn't already easier than the last, it 100% is now. Besides that, I can happily say I was really enjoying my time thus far. There was so much to explore, but not in an overwhelming way. And to see everything come full circle back to the Fire Link was just the cherry on top. By this point, I wasn't really struggling a whole lot with any of the enemies. I actually rarely found myself dying, until I made it to this boss. I don't know what it was, but even with this pup not being too difficult, I still struggled a little bit. I also didn't know until after that Sif's backstory is actually pretty sad. It sort of opened my eyes to the amount of detail and backstory that these worlds have, which is truly insane. So many games nowadays can nail having a great story, but who else is doing it like FromSoft? I really think by the end of this, I may struggle to enjoy normal games again. Regardless, after making my way through some difficult areas and seeing some chests, I'd come across arguably my favorite spot in the game. I truly can't put into words how beautiful this place looks. Like, I didn't think this game could get any better, but it did. The way this game continues to amaze me, I just can't believe this is their second title. If Dark Souls keeps this up, then I really can't see anything passing it. We've still got a lot to experience though, especially with the first boss of Andor Londo. Now these guys are nothing like the man-eaters in Demon Souls. For the first time ever, they actually made a duo boss fight that wasn't complete cancer. The issue a lot of duo boss fights have is that they'll just jump you until you're dead. These guys on the other hand don't entirely do that. Sometimes they would attack in sync, which was a little crazy. Still, most of the time you could weave in and out, taking shots at a specific boss of your choice. After taking out one of them, they'd consume the other, forcing you into a one-on-one fight. They just did everything right with this one, especially with it kind of being the first skill check here as well. I once again got that juicy feeling from beating the Flame Lurker and King Alon. I was also rewarded with even more chests while unlocking the ability to fast travel. By this point in the game, I already knew this one would go down as an instant classic for me. After getting past each major area, I couldn't help but think that FromSoft was doing everything right. Like, how did no one tell me to play this sooner? Regardless, I was nearing the end of the game by this point. My goal was to collect the souls of the 4 lords, so that's what I did. After defeating 3 of the 4, I knew there had to be at least one complete AIDS boss in this game. There just had to be. And that boss was no other than the 4 Kings. I don't care if anyone says it's not that bad if you kill them quickly. Having to run through this area every single time just to fight these dudes that do insane damage if you're not on top of their meat was so unbelievably draining. I can't put into words how defeated this boss made me feel. By the end of it, I wasn't even satisfied. I was just glad it was over. Thankfully, this would give me the final soul I needed to take on the last boss in the game. Gwyn was a very bittersweet boss to end the game on. The story and music surrounding him made this fight so much more impactful than the others. Although it didn't feel that rewarding to beat him, because it just didn't live up to the hype of being this massive battle of the ages. I mean, you're putting down a god that's clinging to a dying flame. It's somber in a good way, which would be followed up with a great ending by sacrificing ourselves to rekindle the first flame, bringing an end to Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1 is one of the games that I will talk about for many years to come. The number of things that FromSoft got right with this title is almost inconceivable. It truly baffles me. Like, how can so many studios fail to just create a good game with no subliminal messaging? Just good gameplay and mechanics that fans want. Is that really too much to ask for? Anyway, there's just too much to love about Dark Souls 1. It would be a disgrace to put this game in anything other than S tier. I truly hope that the next title can, in a way, hold a candle to this one. So, let's find out. Dark Souls 2 is one of those games that no matter what corner of the internet you go on, someone is talking shit about it. And for better or worse, I wouldn't let that sentiment affect my judgment. I wanted to experience everything on my own before coming to conclusions. So that's what I did. Starting this game was a fair bit similar to the last one. Create your build, watch a great cutscene, and immerse yourself into the world. Now, for starters, this game has better graphics and feels smoother than the last one, especially the dodge mechanic, which is a great start considering how high the bar was from Dark Souls 1. Although not too long after familiarizing myself with the game, I'd find out that they brought back a feature that I really despised from Demon Souls, that being the health bar punishment. This immediately put a sour taste in my mouth. I understand the entire point of these games is to be challenging, but why do they have to bring this back? Why couldn't we, just make the bosses and enemies harder? To be fair, they did kind of refine it by allowing you to use human effigies, restoring you back from your hollowed self while giving you a full health bar. Plus, there was also rings and upgrades to help you negate the hollowing effects. If they would have made it just like Demon Souls, I probably would have uninstalled the game. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. As I continued through the tutorial, I'd be given a sight I'd never forget. Unfortunately, this is where my excitement for this map would end, as once I cleared out the first area, I'd be met with a dead end. This really sucks to see because it just promotes fast traveling instead of spending time in the world they built. Dark Souls 1 did this flawlessly. There are very few dead ends. It usually also takes you back to the main bonfire. This not only made the world feel large, but also cohesive. Dark Souls 2 just dropped this entirely. Instead, they would motivate you to either turn around or fast travel. By the way, there are way too many bonfires in this game. Regardless, as I return back to the main hub, I'd enter the second area with higher hopes. Once I got a few upgrades, I'd finally be able to survive this descent. After hours of running around blind, I'd finally make it to one of my favorite bosses in the game. This guy took me way too much time to beat. You legit have to make a route to him, because the boss has a bunch of poison traps and heavy enemies outside of his gate. I can honestly say they have never made a boss like this again, which is kind of why I really enjoyed it. It felt so rewarding to learn my own perfect route, and on top of that, learn the boss's moveset, which was fairly easy. Still, it took me like 60 to 70 tries to beat him, but man, that feeling was rewarding. Ooh. Ooh. Yep. One more. Yes! Oh! Sadly, none of the other bosses in this game would live up to this hype. Actually, scratch that. The Pursuer was easily my favorite. Unfortunately for him, I was too locked in and beat him in just a few tries. However, he still stood out to me visually and mechanically. The fact he flew around made the fight way more engaging. Sometimes I just have a sweet spot for human bosses, and this one hits every note. After him though, things slowed down a good bit. Bosses became much easier, regular enemies weren't that hard and didn't spawn much, plus the map just kept feeling more and more hollow as I went. I'm not just saying this to fan the flames of hate for this game, but I seriously almost fell asleep at some parts of this game. On top of places usually stopping at dead ends, they also felt super empty. I mean, I only found like 4 decent weapons after getting through a good bit of the game, all of which doing very crap damage as well. Somehow, I was better off using the default sword for 90% of my playthrough. I just upgraded it over time to do more damage. In the end, this left me wanting so much more for this game, especially seeing how they cooked up in the last one. I really think Dark Souls 2 was a huge step back. And funny enough, there could actually be a reason for that. Miyazaki wasn't the director, a mistake they thankfully wouldn't make twice. Regardless, all of the negatives for this game is why I'm going to put it all alone in C tier. Let's just hope it stays that way, because I've heard great things about this next title. Ah, Bloodborne. In what reality does this come out 1 year after Dark Souls 2? Like, how can things jump so much in quality? Starting this game up, I was genuinely in shock about this. Not only were the graphics 10x'd, but the art style is just perfect in so many ways. It feels like this game was getting all the attention and love, while the last one was just getting pumped out for the sake of getting pumped out. Comparisons aside, I immediately knew Bloodborne was going to be something special. Even ignoring the praise this title gets, I knew I was about to be in for a good time. I love how they took a risk to make this game different from the rest. They weren't abandoning what their audience loved. They were just giving us a new taste of the things they could offer, which I honestly can't praise enough. From the unique weapon choices to a new combat and health system, I was immediately in love with what this game had to offer. But if I didn't tell you that I struggled off the start, I'd be lying. After playing 3 FromSoft games, I honestly thought that whatever came my way, I'd be perfectly fine. That sentiment would follow me through the beginning of the game until my first skill check. I really thought the first boss can't be that difficult. After getting slapped around for a few hours, I was forced to go back to the drawing board. Everything I had learned leading up to this game was basically pointless. I wasn't going to make it through with the same basic dodging and attacking. Something needed to change. So that's what I did. Once I learned that perfect parrying is the move here, I almost took him out on my first attempt. I finally had the hope I needed to take on what I felt like was one of the hardest bosses for the start of this game. Like, usually you'd run into one of these skill checks later on. But no, you were gonna find out right here, right now, if this was the game for you. Besides that, after a couple more attempts, I was able to defeat this beast of a man. Which, can I say just how cool this guy is? Fighting bosses that are similar to yourself is just peak. And when combined with fast-paced gameplay, I almost feel like a mini version of Jin Woo. The way you constantly trade blows, it's just perfect. At the end of the day, this set up Bloodborne to have the possibility of overtaking Dark Souls 1. It's still too early to make this claim, but I was at the point of wanting to lose sleep for this game. That's not a sentiment I typically have with most games. You really have to be something special to attain that. Let's just hope that feeling never fades. Now, shortly after the first boss, I'd spend a lot of time exploring. I was even able to beat a couple more bosses like the Blood-Starved Beast, Victor Amelia, and even Mikolash.
Do you hear our prayers? No, we shall not abandon the tree.
This was really the only annoying boss in the game. The fact he runs from you and has a one-tap ability in his second phase nearly boiled my brain alive. After a few hours though, I looked up a guide just to learn that you have to spam him. After this, I almost instantly started to enjoy the game again. Though, enjoy might not be the best description.
Yo! Who is this? Yo! Oh my!
Yeah, I have no clue what fever dream I just entered, and I don't know why Bill Nye of all people is in it. Still, random moments like this reminded me why I love this game so much. Not only does every part of the map feel connected and fresh, but it also has so much to explore for its size. It felt like every time I turned a corner, there was some new enemy type or some door I could knock on to talk to a local. Of course, exploring also kicked up some new loot, like this bazooka, which looks cool, but is kind of useless when compared to the flamethrower. Man, that thing did wonders against this trio boss. Aside from that, there were a handful of really cool weapons you could get, some even giving me the strength I needed to beat some of the hardest bosses in the game. Although, in the end, nothing could save me from this guy.
Tonight, Gammon joins the hunt.
Gurman the First Hunter. I legit lost a closet door to this man. This fight brought me to new heights of anger that I forgot games could bring me to. Not only is this dude super fast and does a ton of damage, but getting caught in one of his many combos is an instant nap time. Because of this, I spent well over 5 hours. Yes, 5 hours on just his first phase. When I say I wanted to give up, I mean it. Like, I did everything and anything to get the upper hand. I abused parry, fire paper, and even tried to straight up cheese him. Nothing worked. By this point, I was on 8 hours of fighting this guy. So, to say all hope was lost would be an extreme understatement. After spending some time evaluating what I could be doing wrong, I realized something. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes you don't need every tool at your disposal, or every opportunity to cheat a boss. Sometimes you just need something so simple as patience.
Okay, I'm not gonna get greedy here. Oh! Come on. Yes! Oh!
To end the game off like this, I couldn't place it in any other spot than S tier right above Dark Souls 1. Hopefully with this next game, FromSoft can bounce back from their mistakes with Dark Souls 2. I gotta say, it's great to be back. After the pure stress of Bloodborne's new mechanics, it was nice to go back to what I was comfortable with. Plus, I now feel 1,000 times more confident, something that would only be confirmed after making it to and past the first boss. Perfect starting boss, by the way, though not that challenging. Around this time is when I also realized how much of a visual upgrade happened just between these last two games. In some areas, it's a legit night and day difference. For the most part, this game not only looked amazing, it played that way way too. All the combat was super smooth, especially on PC. My only small gripe was the jumping. For some reason, they got rid of the momentum of it, so you just fall straight down. It felt odd for a while. Honestly, I have no clue why it didn't return, because it was in the last 2 games. Regardless, this didn't ruin my experience, and it's something I got used to over time. Moving forward though, I'd quickly make my way to the first bonfire where I'd meet
Ashen One, bring me souls plucked from their vessels.
In Souls game fashion, we'd basically do anything she asks. Of course, it's a pretty noble mission we're sent on, as it will decide the fate of the entire world. Long story short, we need to kill 5 Lords of Cinder and return their ashes to their respective thrones. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, that's what I thought initially. You see, this map might be way smaller and more linear, but there are a lot of mini-bosses and enemies in the way. Thankfully, most of them, like the Rotted Greatwood, Crystal Sage, and Deacons of the Deep, were pretty easy. They were mostly just for show, as they all had very unique fights. This could also be applied to the next boss, which just so happens to be the first Lord of Cinder, the Abyss Watchers. I have no clue how they did it, but this one has the fast-paced feel of Bloodborne and the combat of Dark Souls. It's perfect. I legit loved everything about them. Besides my sweet spot for human bosses, they also managed to give him easily the most cinematic combat yet, and I mean out of all the games I've played so far. It's truly amazing what they did here, and it's why it quickly became my favorite, something that doesn't just apply to this game, but the entire trilogy. Of course, this made beating it all the more rewarding, though this big high would quickly make the rest kind of feel plain. Don't get me wrong, Pontiff Sullivan and the Dancer were top tier fights as well. Personally, they just couldn't compete with the Abyss Watchers. In any case, I'd continue to push through boss after boss, where I began to realize just how many there were. Dark Souls 3 basically removed the exploration part of the first 2 games. Instead, they went for the more action-packed linear style. Now, some of you may not have liked this at the time, but for me, I think it's perfect for these games. It's honestly why I like Bloodborne so much. Still, I think variety is nice, which is something FromSoft does well at. In the end, it just really makes it hard to talk about anything but bosses in this game. But with the majority of them and all of them being very great, I could legit talk about them for hours. I mean, the only 2 I disliked were the Consumed King and the Dragon Slayer. Besides that, the next 2 would take 2nd and 3rd on my favorites list. Of course, this would not only complete my mission, but put me face to face with the final boss of the game, aka the Soul of Cinder.
I will no reaction.
Okay, it's got a little kick.
Yep, this is a final boss, alright. Instantly, I got PTSD from Gurman. The arenas were the same size, and they were both very fast. I wouldn't say the Soul of Cinder was harder than Gurman, but it was pretty close. This thing brought me to pure insanity. He basically has 3 to 4 phases depending on how you look at it. Off the start, he isn't too bad. At half health, he starts using a bunch of new weapons and spells. Though, once you finally kill him, he gets another massive health bar. This time, he does a bunch of fire and lightning attacks. Plus, he is just overall stronger. The point that really set me off was getting him absolute one-shot, and then getting killed when going for the final blow.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
After cooling off, I'd lock in, knowing that I basically beat him once, so I know I can do it again. This felt beyond rewarding. In terms of enjoyment, it still doesn't top the Abyss Watchers, but it can bump the others down a space. While I did really enjoy this game, and will probably play it again in the future, I'm going to rank it at the top of A tier. It would be an S tier if it had a bit more areas of exploration. I know I said linear is great for these games, but this one went a bit overboard when compared to the trilogy. Also, a lot of the areas of the map felt very repetitive and forgettable. It all fit better together than Dark Souls 2. Still, it felt they went a bit too dark for a majority of the game. Ultimately, it led to many areas feeling very repetitive, something this next game took into account. Sekiro is one of those games that I was really worried about. I knew how much this game was beloved, but I also knew the amount of times I heard,
Sekiro requires a lot more patience than the other titles, and I think this one was 10 times harder to get the hang of than any of the
Sekiro time, baby. AKA the hardest Souls game.
Ever playthrough, Sekiro felt like the most difficult Souls game I have ever played.
This game gave me anxiety, and to say I was warranted would be a complete understatement. before I get ahead of myself, let's rewind a little bit. Starting off this game, I was immediately shocked with how different everything felt. For starters, you don't create a character at all. You play as Sekiro, who actually talks for once and is the main character of a very story-focused game, which I'm all for. I love myself a good story. But on top of that, the gameplay also takes another drastic turn from the other titles, and not in a Bloodborne kind of way. No, in this one, you can do stealth and even climb on walls. Both changes that quickly made me feel right at home, considering I almost felt like I was playing Ghost of Tsushima or Assassin's Creed. The vibes would also be a big reason. Besides all that, in Souls fashion, I'd quickly face the first boss of the game. Yeah, maybe I'm just destined to never beat one of these guys first try. Regardless, this is where I'd learn some of the story, and be thrusted into the world to find more answers. By this point, I thought I'd sort of ease into the combat after getting clapped by Genichiro, but I couldn't be more wrong. The tiniest mini-boss was giving me the most problems. I got to a point where I was starting to lose my mind. Even after I defeated him, nothing really changed. I even resorted to sneaking up on other mini-bosses just so I could get a quick visceral in. If that wasn't an option, I'd use anything to my advantage, like when you can 2v1 the drunkard. Both of these encounters essentially taught me nothing. As a matter of fact, it just taught me to fight cheap, which of course can only get you so far. I learned that the hard way though. Now, I know I'm not the only one who spent a couple of hours fighting this lady, but even with how difficult she was, she's exactly what I needed. There's no gimmicks, no sneaking up on her, you're actually forced to fight. So after failing countless times and getting some much needed advice, I learned that the goal isn't to dodge until I get my opening. Instead, it's to parry and deflect as many attacks as possible. This changed everything. After defeating Lady Butterfly, I felt like I actually understood the game. I don't want to get too cocky though, as I know I'm going to get humbled at some point. But by now, I was starting to get the hang of things. I was finally enjoying my time. After revisiting the main area of the game, I started to really live in the moment. It helped me notice these small details and the amazingly crafted world. I even took advantage of feeling like Spider-Man, zipping from building to building. This made exploration really fun and engaging, and when paired with my new understanding of the combat, I was having no issues with any of the enemies. Except for this guy, like, why is this man so fast? Aside from that, I'd continue exploring until I came across the Ashina Castle. I knew I'd be getting my rematch eventually, just not this soon.
For as long as you are alive, the dragon's blood can never be mine.
Ooh, I've been waiting for this. I'm ready to get some sweet revenge. Yeah, I might have gone a little too gung-ho there. Anyway, after locking in, I would learn his attack patterns pretty quickly. It took me a couple attempts till I'd actually get to the point of defeating him, which felt amazing.
Behold the lightning of Tomoe.
What the fuck?
When I say this destroyed my hope, I mean it. I was under the assumption that this means he only has 2 health bars. But nope, I guess I can't trust the game now. Of course, I died to him right away, so I had to go through all of that pain again and again and again until I finally beat him. Words truly cannot explain this feeling. Beating this man felt so rewarding. It taught me a lot about the combat, took a lot of skill to beat, and best of all, fulfilled that sweet revenge from the start. Things were really heating up. Then they immediately started giving me more story bits. It was like an all-you-can-eat buffet at this point. Regardless, this cleared up a lot of my questions and introduced some new ones. Still, before anything could be answered, we'd be given a new mission: retrieve the Mortal Blade. Yeah, that's one sick name for a sword. As I went to track down this blade, I spent a lot of time running around and taking out some bosses, none of which being that crazy difficult, but still took up a ton of my time. So after running for what felt like hours, I'd finally come across the most unique boss in this game, the Folding Monkeys. I'll be honest, I looked up a guide. Hate me all you want, but I ran around for hours not knowing what I was doing wrong. Once I got the info I needed, it was pretty easy. Still, it was cool nonetheless. I like how you have to do different things for each and sort of hunt them down. Once this is done, we then meet the divine child of rejuvenation who will give us the Mortal Blade.
How are you?
The Mortal Blade. I accept its power.
Yeah, that was dope. And now I got a new fun weapon. Thankfully, I know just the boss to test it on. Hands down, this is my favorite boss. I had the most fun learning his moveset, and getting those perfect parries was so satisfying. His visual style was pretty simple, but his arena wasn't. This was by far the most interactive arena for a boss fight, as you can legit hook onto trees to zip away from him, though he can't just knock them all down to stop you from doing so. Plus, he will randomly shit in his hand and throw it at you. In the end, these little details are what made him my favorite. Plus, they tricked me again by faking his death. I really should have seen that coming. Honestly, this just made the fight that much better. Getting to parry his sword attacks was perfect. Of course, it did give me a bit of grief, though I caught onto his moves pretty fast and ended him, or so I thought. Well, I didn't see this coming, but I guess we got a Mortal Blade for a reason. Time to test it out. Yeah, I'd say he's down for good. Glad to know this thing works too, because I got a feeling we're gonna need it. After running all the way back to the castle and fighting a bunch of flying enemies, we'd have to fight our father.
Why, boy? Why can't you understand your father's will? Have you forgotten the shinobi code?
This wasn't an easy fight, but it didn't take me too long to beat. I just think it's crazy that you can legit end the game here. I honestly haven't played many games where you can do that. Of course, I'm trying to get the full experience, so I killed him and talked to the Divine Heir, giving us our new mission: acquire the tears of the Divine Dragon. To do this, we gotta go all the way up this mountain, run through this deadly town, swim deep underwater, and then finally reach a shrine. This is where we will use the Divine Blood to enter the Dragon's realm. The issue is, one of the hardest bosses in the game is guarding the gate all the way back at the start, so it's time to lock in. For real, this was the hardest boss yet. The 3 phases were so different and difficult in their own way. Thankfully, I learned that you can skip 2 of them by hiding in the trees, because I don't know if I would have made it out of this one. By this point, the only thing standing my way now was a town and a giant fish. Listen, I'm not gonna sit here and act like this place was easy, because it wasn't. In fact, it beat me just as bad as the last boss, though I eventually made it out and arrived. Yeah, this boss is pretty cool, but is probably the easiest. It reminds me of a boss from the Insomniac Spider-Man series. It's really just a lot of quick time events and dodging. In the end, it only took me about 10 attempts max to beat it, though I think this boss was meant to butter me up for the whooping that was about to come.
Behold, the second mortal blade.
I honestly didn't think it could get this bad. Just about all of Sekiro's bosses are very difficult, though somehow they topped it big time with this guy. Not only is Genichiro back and all coked up, but once you kill him, you have to fight his grandfather Enshin. Now this man's moveset is unbelievably insane. Not only was I getting bent over in the first phase, if I was lucky enough to get to the second, dude would legit pull out the 9. Like, the fuck is that? Then, by the grace of God, if I'd ever make it to the final stage, he'd just go ballistic. Which, can we talk about the fact that there are 4 phases in total? Talk about overkill. Ignoring the absurdity of that, I have to say that out of all the games thus far, I have yet to feel this drained and defeated. Like, I gave it so many attempts to try and learn this dude's moveset, but no matter what, I just couldn't beat it. So unfortunately, I had to throw in the towel. I was forced to use the Mortal Blade to basically cheese him. Otherwise, I think I would have been sitting in my chair like Kai fighting Melania. Of course, this cheese would lessen the feeling of beating the boss the hard way, but it wouldn't take away from my love for this game. I was having the time of my life to the point where I even tried taking this guy on.
Oh my. One shot? Give this guy another chance though. Okay, yeah, I'm good.
For that reason, this game has to go at the top of S tier. Actually, I'm gonna create a whole new tier for Sekiro alone, putting it in S+. I truly think this is the best Souls game I've ever played, and I really hope they make another one in the future. Aside from that, it's time to experience 2022's Game of the Year. Wow, I can't believe I'm finally playing Elden Ring. I mean, this game is why I'm making this video. The amount of success it's brought the series is insane. All I've ever heard is that it's basically God's gift to gaming, so my expectations are pretty high for this one. I'll be very interested to see if it can live up to them, but there's only one way to find out.
Yo, this is cinema.
This is without a doubt the best start menu music, already off to an amazing start. Though it wouldn't stop there. After creating a character and picking a class, you are instantly thrown into the deep end, which goes about as well as expected. Of course, they don't want you to actually beat this boss cause it leads you to the true tutorial, which I gotta say is a pretty good one. It reminds me of Dark Souls 2 as it lets you run around and practice the moves on real enemies. At the end, you even fight the easiest mini boss in the game and then open the gates too. Words can't explain how beautiful this game looks. After taking it all in, you'd meet your first friend? I mean, he roasts us for most of the conversation, but he also helps us by telling us where we need to go. Taking his advice, I'd easily stroll to... Nah, I'm joking, I instantly got destroyed by the tree sentinel. After this beating, I decided to steer very clear of him, and within a couple minutes, I'd meet...
I am Melina. I offer you an accord.
Melina would give me a game changer for exploring this open world, aka Torrent. This would allow me to easily breeze past many enemies and camps until I finally came across my first glowing door.
One must extinguish thy flame. Let it be Margit the Fell.
Now this is a first boss. I love the design and attacks. Don't get me wrong, they were very hard to learn because he loves pausing before swinging. This annoyed me pretty quickly, but I knew it was just a skill issue. You see, Sekiro forced me to react fast and jittery. Elden Ring is almost the exact opposite. A lot of enemies I've already fought are very slow, sometimes holding their swords in the air for 2 or more seconds. This led to a major skill issue of mine that I think many new players can relate to. Panic rolling. Thankfully, this boss was my cure for this problem. I knew if I was going to beat him, I'd have to be just as patient as him. With this mindset, it was only a matter of time. From here, I had 2 options: push further into the giant castle or explore the open world a bit. Not knowing whether or not I could go back after entering this place, I chose to explore. From here, I'd find a couple flask upgrades, take out a few mini bosses, and get a very strong weapon named the... Yeah, this is exactly what I needed. Now I know I'm ready to take on whatever is inside that castle.
I am the Lord of all that is golden.
The Bloodhound may have carried me big time here, but personally, I thought he was easier than Margit. His second phase is where I died the most. Still, I had a lot of fun beating him, and it just made me want more, which is exactly what I got, as I'd run through bosses like the Red Wolf and Renala pretty easily, though I'd be met with a skill check and a very unique boss not too long after this, both of which taking me a few hours to get past as the Bloodhound was starting to fail me. I knew I'd have to upgrade it soon and explore a bit more to do so. However, before that, I gave one of the most hyped up bosses a chance. Yeah, I gotta level up. So right away I got to doing an early rune farm and finding bell bearings to upgrade the Bloodhound. This took me about 6+ hours of exploring, but by the end I had a better weapon, new armor, and was properly leveled for the fight. I was ready to give Radahn my best shot.
You're going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
At first, all that leveling and upgrading felt like it was for nothing. I spent probably 7 hours on this guy, but I never lost hope. I got close several different times until I finally took him down. This was easily the most rewarding boss to beat up until this point. He had a lot of cool and challenging attacks, plus he just looked badass. Of course, I had to take his drip, and I also decided that it was time to drop the Bloodhound's Fang. Now it's time to play into the double katana strat, something that would help me clear through a ton of main bosses, most of which not giving me too much grief until I made it to the Fire Giant. I have no clue why, but every time I got this man weak, he'd start pulling out some crazy strats. The most annoying which being the sitting on the edge of the map so you can't hit him. Still, it only took me like 4 hours to get past him and rejoin Melina.
Thank you for guiding me here.
This is where everything picks up. The regular enemies are very deadly and the bosses get even stronger. For example, the Godscan duo. My god, these guys are annoying. The fact that they almost always team up on you perfectly is insane. Regardless, once you get past them, things only get harder.
Oh, death. Become my blade once more.
Malekith took my soul. Genuinely, this boss destroyed every bit of hope I had of getting past it quickly. Now, it only took about an hour to get past the first stage. However, phase 2 was a whole nother story. I'm not joking when I say I spent well over 10 hours on this. Every time I died, I had to run past the Sentinel and obviously survive the first phase again, which was super annoying in the moment. Nevertheless, my main problem was that second phase. Everything was so fast and instantly deleted my health bar. What sucked the most is there was nothing I could do to make this boss easy. No more leveling up, no OP weapons. I just had to tough it out, and tough it out I did. As try after try, I was getting slammed. But on what felt like my 100th attempt, I finally got him. Oh! This moment was so rewarding. It easily became my favorite boss in the game and took the most skill by a long shot. Still, I knew I wasn't out of the woods yet. As I made my way to the final boss, I had a bad feeling it was going to get just as rough.
Alas, I am returned.
Getting to fight the first Elden Lord was pretty cool, but it actually didn't give me too hard of a time. I beat him in around 8 tries. I know, I'm the GOAT. On a real note, I really liked his design, especially in phase 2. The fact he consumes the lion is just crazy. Thankfully, this phase wasn't too difficult, so he was down for the count fairly quickly. Now, there was nothing standing in my way of beating this game. Both stages of this final boss are hard, that's without question. Though I still think Malekith was much harder overall. With that aside, I still think this was a really good final boss. The fact you go from fighting Radagon to then the giant beast was really unexpected. I personally like the Radagon fight better, because the Elden Beast had some pretty annoying attacks that would delete you if you got caught up in them. In the end, I would spend a couple of hours on this boss till finally beating it. I was fully ready to sit on the throne and become Elden Lord, but wait, I think I'm missing something.
I am Melania, Blade of Mikola.
Yep, she quickly became the hardest boss I've ever fought. Like bro, that waterfall attack never made sense to me. For that reason alone, I spent over 8 hours before I got to her second phase, but just once. After that, I got stuck on phase 1 again. When I started playing again the next day, I was in high spirits. Then after another 6 hours, I was ready to give up.
It's okay, don't lose your cool. You can always just move on. I mean, she isn't a main boss.
Right when I was about to throw in the towel, I remembered something. Call it what you want, but if she's going to fight dirty, then I'll fight dirtier.
Oh my... Yo, she's getting whooped.
In the end, this did make beating her not that all rewarding, but if I want to, I can always go back and beat her the hard way. Regardless, I'd say Elden Ring easily met my expectations and then some, which is why it can rest easy at the top of S tier. Next up though is the final and newest FromSoft game, Nightreign. Yep, they did it again. That opening music is almost better than Elden Ring itself. Almost. Anyway, I had no idea what to expect for this game before it came out. All I heard was people saying, it's going to be a DLC or it's going to be its own game. Plus, with the comments that it was going to be a battle royale type of gameplay, it only made everything more confusing. Although, once I got my hands on it, all I could think was, this is really good. Now, I know there's a lot of discourse surrounding this game, and I'm by no means saying it's perfect, but I had a lot of fun in the 50 hours I played. Being able to hop on a Souls game with the boys scratched an itch that I was really looking for. Though I cannot ignore the no crossplay. Like, that should genuinely be a crime in 2025. Besides that, I think Nightreign perfectly balanced the map and enemies for a team game. I quickly found myself enjoying the skill of planning out a route to hit every church, fight every optional boss, and most of all, hit every shifting event. Which, I have to say, these things were really cool, and did a great job of keeping things interesting throughout these several games I played. My favorite would probably be the volcano, for obvious reasons. Ignoring that, I also really like the variety of characters you could play. My personal favorite had to be the Executor. Being able to parry like Sekiro and have bleed weapons, and a crazy ult made this dude so OP. Plus, whenever paired with Wilder and whoever our random chose, it typically made for a really good stack. This would carry us throughout the majority of the game, but that's not to say there was no struggle. I wanted to take on each main boss in order, and considering you're forced to fight a 3v3 first, my friend and I had a tough time trying to beat him. It took us a good 10 games to finally come out on top. It would then take us a good 15 hours to beat the next 3 bosses, which might seem like a lot, but 90% of our time was spent looting and fighting other enemies before we got up to them. Still, this would be nothing in comparison to what we went through with the Equilibrious Beast. This dude alone took us all day to beat, legit from morning till night. I don't want to just blame teammates, but we did have one random every time. So it was a 50-50 if they would stick with us or just die by themselves and leave the game. Which, side note, I played this game on launch, so I didn't have any access to the new update for duos. With that in mind, we had our fair share of RNG, you could say. After dealing with this for about 10 plus hours, we finally got the god teammate. I just want to say, that boss is nuts. I really hope I'm not the only one who spent a ridiculous amount of time on him. Aside from that, the end of the game was getting sort of close, especially with how quickly we'd beat the next two Night Lords. By this point, I was really starting to enjoy the game, somehow even more than it already was. Fighting old bosses throughout and constantly coming across new threats made everything feel so fresh. It didn't matter if the gameplay was a little repetitive. I can truly say I was addicted to it all. That's why it was almost bittersweet to enter the door to the final boss. Yeah, we severely underestimated this man. We legit spent an entire day on just this boss, similar to the Beast, except this guy was definitely a lot harder. Having 3 phases didn't help either. This made fighting the night aspect all the more stressful. Not only could we taste the end of the game, but we also just didn't know what to do. It literally got to the point where we were testing every playstyle, every weapon, every character, all to no avail. This was enough to make me croak, so I looked up a guide. Having the ultimate strat of just running shields is single-handedly what got us through this boss. And you'd think doing something like this might kill the feeling of success, but it didn't. It was fun to take turns wailing on him while the others served as a distraction. It really brought home the fact that this is a team game, and it made it all the better to suffer through it with a friend. So for that reason, I'm going to put this game under Dark Souls 3 in A tier. At the end of the day, this entire experience has not only changed the way I look at video games, but it also taught me valuable lessons like patience and perseverance. Without those, I would have given up all the way back on Demon Souls, which I just can't imagine. I would have missed out on some of the best games ever made. So for that reason, I'd have to say this was an overall S tier experience. For anyone who has never played through the series, I genuinely encourage you to give it a try. No matter which one you play, I'm confident in saying your life will be changed. Besides that, if you enjoyed this video, maybe you'll like the one on screen now. Anyways, have a blessed day.